Hi everyone, welcome to your tutorial which is centered around mindfulness. I'm going to use something called the 5 areas approach because I think it's a really practical way of using mindfulness. Often people think of mindfulness as these people that just walk around with butterflies in their brain, but actually being mindful isn't that. It's about being mindful of what's going on and how you react to what's going on. And I've titled this, You Can't Pour from an Empty Cup, so you must take care of yourself first. So mindfulness and a 5 areas approach is a way of you looking after yourself and making sure you're okay. When you're working in care professions, generally the natural instinct is to put everybody else first. But I believe that you can't care for others if you don't care for yourself. So what we're going to be looking at today is increase your understanding of CBT in 5 areas. Be able to identify unhelpful thinking in yourselves and look for areas for change. And then at the end of the session to complete a 5 areas approach. So CBT, really simplistically, cognitive is the thinking part and behavioural is the actions that come from the thinking. So you've got your situation, thoughts, mood, feelings, behaviour and physical reactions. So these are the 5 areas that we're going to focus on with this approach. So the idea is that all these are interacting with each other. And you have a situation that happens, it could be anything. I've just been shopping with my little girl, she's 2.5, and she decided to have a meltdown in Aldi. She threw herself on the floor and was going nowhere. So my thinking could have been, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, what will people think? Oh, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna put her in the car, forget the shopping. The mood and feelings, like I say, embarrassed, anxiety, anger. Behaviour, it could have meant that I'd stormed out of the shop, didn't get my shopping done, and the physical reactions, heart racing, sweating, shaking, all the anxiety symptoms. But because I've practiced this, I did have, some of the physical things, but I was able to manage my thought process because I thought, well, everyone's had kids, everybody knows that sometimes they have meltdowns and, it's life. She's 2.5, she wanted a magazine. And I've not let her have it, so that's why she's having this meltdown. So that's a much nicer thought than worrying about what everyone's thinking about me. It affects my feelings, it makes me feel calmer. I don't leave the shop, I carry on doing my shopping, and the physical symptoms lessen over time. So it was just a really simple situation, but something we've all probably experienced, but how I react to it, knowing this approach helped me in that situation and many others. So a situation I thought that you might all be familiar with was a family case conference. So the thinking going into that might be, what if I say something wrong or something I say is taken the wrong way? What if I haven't got all the answers and they must hate me? So you might be walking into situations, safeguarding situations where you've had to hold people to account for things and you might have to have quite difficult conversations. And those conversations and situations where the stakes are high and the emotions are high, it can affect our thinking. That makes us feel anxious and guilty. And our behaviour, we might not sleep the night before, might not eat our breakfast because we've got a sick feeling in our stomach, might keep needing the toilet, but it can also change our communication, so it can actually make us appear more abrupt, and that can then feed into some of that unhelpful thinking again. And the physical symptoms are nausea, shaking, sweating, heart racing and red face. So the idea, a lot of people think when I ask them what's the trigger for all this, a lot of people think it's a situation. But in reality, it is the thinking. It's the thinking that's the trigger for this sort of negative spiral. And you're the one in control of the thinking. You can't control situations. Situations happen every day. Different things happen. But what CBT in the 5 areas is saying is you can control how you react to that situation. So the power of our thoughts. So Dr. Chris Williams recognised the power of our thoughts. And he's come up with 7 unhelpful thinking styles to help us identify when we're doing it and stop that negative cycle. And A quote here that sums it up is, our lives are not determined by what happens to us, but how we react to what happens, not by what life brings to us, but the attitude we bring to life. So 7 unhelpful thinking styles. The first one is being biased against myself. So this is where you might overlook strengths, focus on weaknesses, downplay your achievements and your own worst critic. So example might be you get the job of your dreams, but you say it's because they interviewed a few people. So you don't really ever take credit for anything that you do well or any compliments that people give you. Negative slant on this is where you have a bit of a negative filter, so you see things through dark tinted glasses and you focus on negative. So you start your day and you think it's going to be awful, I'm going to have a rubbish day, and guess what, you end up having a bad day, because those thoughts will affect the feelings will affect the behaviour will affect the physical symptoms, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The next one is a gloomy view of the future. So this is where you make negative predictions about the future, and you predict things will go wrong before they actually do go wrong. So I'm not going to go out that night because it'll rain, or this home visit next is going to be awful, or the team meeting that I'm going to have is going to be awful because everyone's in a bad mood. And it just that negative view affects everything from that point forward. So catastrophizing. This is where you jump to worse conclusions and you make negative predictions about the future and predict things will go wrong before they happen. So this is a quote by Mark Twain, and he says, I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. And I don't do this thinking style, but people that I know do, it's absolutely exhausting for them, because whatever they're catastrophizing or worrying about, they live and breathe that experience. So say if a family member's late, they assume they've died in a car crash, and the worry and the feelings and everything that it actually would have happened, they experience even though it hasn't. So another one is a negative view about how others see me. So you mind read what others think of you, and you often think others don't like or think badly of you. So I did this when I started first day of my new job. I'd gone from full-time clinical practitioner to a full-time lecturing post, and as a clinician I used to wear a uniform. So I put on something what I thought was smart but wasn't sure, went to meet my manager, and she looked me up and down and didn't say anything and walked off to get a coffee. Anyway, my mind starts racing and I'm thinking, what does she think of me, and is what I'm wearing right? Do I look professional? Because she was very smartly dressed. So anyway, because I've done my CBT and I'd still practice it now, I thought to myself, I'm mind reading here. So when she came back with the coffees, I just said to her, can I just ask if what I'm wearing is all right? And she said, yes. I looked at you and I thought how professional you looked. So then I felt like better, but you can imagine if I'd not checked that out, I would have worried about that all day. So the next one is bearing all responsibility. So this is where you take the blame if things go wrong, and you feel responsible for whether everyone else is okay, and you take unfair responsibility for things that aren't your fault. So the reason I've done the picture there is you're a bit of a mother hen, and maybe even a bit of a martyr. In that situation, you think everything's down to you, and in reality it's not. And then we have making extreme statements or rules. So you use words like, oh, it always goes wrong, things never go right for me, oh, it's bloody typical, I ought to, I must, I should, I got to. So this is where you have really high standards of yourself and everybody else. So you constantly feel like you're failing, but you're also always frustrated with others because you never feel like they're reaching the standards that you've set. But actually your standards maybe need reevaluating and looking at, because you're going to constantly feel like you're failing if not, and you're going to constantly feel let down by other people as well. So what I'd like you to do now with Kim is complete an unhelpful thinking style questionnaire. So I've sent these to Kim, hopefully she's printed them off. So it's this here, and all you do is you read down the side and just tick next to the one that you think you do. You might do them all. Don't worry about it. It just makes it easier to notice when you're doing it. So once you've ticked them, then have a discussion with each other about that, and share some, share with each other, really, share the learning. And I always want to add another one, because if anyone reads this and says they don't do any, then that is an unhelpful thinking style in itself, because I think we've all felt anxious or down or low at some point. We all do this. So Kim, if you just pause this, and then that gives people a chance to fill the questionnaire and have a discussion about it. So the next activity, you spent 10-15 minutes doing your unhelpful thinking styles, is to have a go at the 5 areas approach. So do something related to work. It could be how you felt on your first day of work, maybe a difficult supervision session, maybe a difficult case conference, or disagreement with an educator or team member. And if you pause this again and just spend 10-15 minutes doing that, and then share again with each other. So now you've done your 5 areas and you've shared your experiences with each other. You're on that sort of process to change now, because you've started hopefully to address the unhelpful thinking, first of all by noticing it. So you filled in the questionnaire. Then as you were doing your 5 areas, going back and identifying what kind of unhelpful thinking you were doing. Then we're going to look at next is challenge and change. So one of the ways that you can challenge unhelpful thinking is ask questions and be a thought detective. So if you're having a day where you notice your thinking's become unhelpful, if you might want to ask yourself, if I wasn't feeling like this, what would I say and think? Am I feeling tired? Am I just feeling a bit run down that's making me feel and think different this way? Am I jumping to conclusions? What's the worst that could happen? And this is a lovely one. What would I say to a friend? And also you can look at evidence for and against. So the way you do this, and you can do this more in detail, and I'm really just giving you a taster of what you can do here, is you can do thought diaries. So you write the thought down, you think the style of the thinking, evidence for or against, and you replace with a more positive thought. So the thought could be, I've just saw my friend in a shop and she ignored me. And how does that make you feel? It makes you feel quite upset and quite low. You actually mind reading, because she's not said she's annoyed with you. The evidence for is she didn't wave back when you waved, but the evidence against it was busy. She probably didn't see you and she weren't wearing glasses. So there's much more evidence against than there is for. So now the more positive thought is she probably didn't see me. I'll message her saying I saw her. That hopefully makes you feel a lot better. So that's the whistle-stop tour of CBT in 5 areas. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you think it's something you can use. It's really just a taster that I've given you. It's really, you could spend a day doing this, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a taster of it. Now what I'd like you to do is just spend the next 5-10 minutes just listening to some relaxing music and focusing on your breathing. So if Kim clicks onto this picture there, it will bring up some nice relaxing music for you. And I just want you to play that. Just get rid of this ad. Just want you to spend 10 minutes just listening to the music, focusing on your breathing, taking nice deep breaths in. So just imagining that you're breathing in relaxation and breathing out tension, and just have a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes, just listening to the music, and enjoy and have a great rest of the day and great rest of the week. I hope you enjoyed that.